Hi, I'm Amber, and I've worn hair for 30 years, and I've worked in hair replacement for 15, helping other women who are just like me, suffering from hair loss for a variety of reasons, from a variety of conditions. I'd like to introduce you to the Franken-Unit, turning your old units into something new. Okay, well, let me start by saying that you might need a little bit of sewing or wig experience before trying to do this, but it is something that if you are fairly handy with a sewing machine or sewing by thread, this is something that you can do. It's also something that I can do for you. So what we're looking at here is we're starting with, in this case, we're starting with 6 units and kind of giving them a once over to see which parts of each unit look good and which are not so good. And by doing this, I can see that if a certain piece is a little bit thinner in one spot on the top, but the rest of it looks good, that might be a piece that we want to put a patch on versus another piece that might be thinner in some larger areas that we may use as a donor piece. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm just looking for those extra thin spots, marking them underneath. So you can see I've marked on this one. You can use a permanent marker. It will not bleed or show through. So you can use a permanent marker or any marker really. So here are our beginning units. You can see there are 6 of them. And then what you're going to need for your supplies, just going to be these donor units. I have a very, very simple sewing machine, a good pair of scissors, a marker, and some thread. Okay, so I've kind of started slicing and dicing these, and I know this is going to be a really kind of scary part of the process for most people, but it will be fairly easy to see which parts of a unit you can get rid of and which parts might be good for you to use. So in this particular case, I've marked the top piece with an area that is not usable. And you can see I have a couple donor pieces there as well. I might have one here or there. Now, see, that looks like a piece that we're not going to be able to do much with, so that one will trash. So what we're going to end up with is 4 pieces that look relatively decent, and then 2 pieces that we're going to use as our donor pieces. I take the piece, the amount of hair around the section that is especially thin, that we're going to patch over, and I just tie it in a little bit of a knot. I sort of part the hair off. See, tie it in a little bit of a knot there, and then we're going to actually get rid of that hair with a little bit small clippers or a beard trimmer, and we're going to take that hair right off. I know this is scary. I know some of you might be like, oh my gosh, I could never do this, but just imagine you're not using these pieces anyhow. So if you want to experiment a little bit with it, go ahead and do it. You really don't have anything to lose with pieces that you're really not able to use anyhow. And in this case, you'll see in the end we've gotten some really beautiful pieces out of this. So same thing in this one. We're just taking the hair off in that area, and then we're going to patch over. So what I've done is I've taken actually a sandwich bag, and I've taken pieces of that sandwich bag and I've cut them out to fit the pieces that we need to patch. Okay, so you can see just kind of like a pattern. If you ever cut a pattern out for sewing, but it's not a sandwich bag, but a lunch bag or a grocery bag, it's great to use. So what I'm doing now is once I have those pieces cut out to cover the donor pieces, we're going to start to look at, the pieces that we're going to be patching. Once we've looked at that, we have our patterns made. Now we're going to start looking at the donor pieces. And then we can lay our pattern on top, and then we can start cutting. It's really important to have a really good pair of shears or scissors to use. If you have a special pair of scissors, if you do crafts and sew or know anybody that does, when you have a special pair of scissors that's used just for that, that is exactly what you need. You want them to be really nice and sharp. The key to not cutting the hair on the underside of the piece as you're cutting it is to keep that bottom blade against the unit at all times. could have gotten a better shot of that, but if you just make sure that you're keeping that blade, then you won't cut the long hair. You see we have a nice little donor piece there. And again, what we've done is we've taken our little pattern, cut it out, and now we have the pieces to fit. So what we're actually doing is I'm just using a regular stitch on here, nothing special, nothing spectacular. And I am sewing from the top. So I actually pin it on there, and then I'm going to actually be sewing from the top. And I'm just going to sew that piece right along the edge. Now I do a stitch, and then I do a back stitch, and then I stitch over that again so that it's going to be nice and secure. So you see I'm doing a bit of that here. I'm going to be doing this on several pieces. I have sped this up a little bit for you so that it's not completely boring, but I do want you to kind of get a good idea of what this process looks like, whether you're going to do it yourself or whether you're going to have me do it. You can send some pieces to me. I will take a look at them and let you know if there's anything that I think I can do with them. Now these pieces, you'll notice they're not full wigs. As you've been watching the video, you'll notice it is not a full wig. It is a piece that is smaller. I wouldn't say it's as small as a topper, but it's also smaller than a full wig. And this particular client that I've worked with for a really long time bonds the perimeter of these pieces. So as you know, if you have ever bonded or know somebody that does, those pieces tend to wear out a bit quicker. But we're going to fix these right up, and it's going to get her some more life out of these pieces. Also, I don't know how you wear hair, but sometimes people will have pieces that they save for special occasions, and then they also have pieces that they may wear to yoga or to the gym or to work out in the yard, whatever. So even if these pieces aren't the best pieces and they're not used for the best occasions, they can still be pieces that you can still get a lot of really good wear out of. So if you want to, you could skip ahead just a little bit, but I did want to give you a good idea on how this goes and how easy it can be if you do have a little bit of experience. And again, if you don't, not a problem. I'm happy to take a look at pieces and see if there's anything creative we could do to kind of give you some extra working pieces. And of course, if you're interested to go back and take a second look about how this goes, you can certainly watch the video again. But it is a pretty cool process. I do use pins. You can see them there on that piece to pin the donor piece in place, and then I take those out as we get it sewn on. So you can see it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty on the underside, and it certainly isn't, but it does get the job done, and it ends quite nicely. So we ended up having 4 gorgeous donor pieces, so that's great. So keep watching. I'm going to show you how to really touch them up, get them working really well for you. These pieces, because this client does bond around the perimeter, it did leave a little bit of adhesive and hair on the machine. So if you just take some 91 or 99% alcohol on a paper towel, you can just wipe it off. It's going to clean up really, really nicely. I also make sure to wipe the needle and some of that hardware around there, just to be sure we get all of the sticky off. All right, so here's the top of some of these units. Again, they're not going to be perfect because we are not taking perfect units and then adding them to worn or worn out units. We're taking worn units and we're adding them to other worn units. So we're going to use a little bit of hair powder. I just found this one and I really, really like it. It's got a little sponge on the bottom that pops right in there, and then you can open the top and you will get your hair powder. In this particular case, I bought black, and I am really, really happy with it. I don't know how long it will last. It seems to be a lot of decent product in there, but unfortunately I can't tell you how long it's going to last because I just got it. So we're going to take this, and this client parts on the top in the middle. So what we're going to do is take some of these spots that might be just a tad bit thinner around the perimeter, like this one, that's going to be outside of her part, and we're just going to take this hair powder and just touch up those spots just to make it look a bit fuller. Now, you know, I had a client many years ago. She started wearing hair, and prior to that, she was using hair powder. If you've never used hair powder, let me tell you what, you're missing out, because it does so many great things. Whether you're wearing hair or not wearing hair, it is so good. It does so many great things. But she started wearing hair, and of course, prior to wearing hair, maybe she was using hair powder. And she said, because she was frustrated about having to use it on her unit or her wig, and she said, Amber, the reason that I started wearing hair, I didn't think I was going to have to use hair powder anymore. I'm just telling you, if you're not using it, there's no reason to stop using it if you start wearing hair and things go a little bit different for you hair-wise. There's no reason to stop using it. It's so, so good. Excuse my puppy there. He's 7 months old and recovering from surgery, and he's a little bored. So he's trying to get in on the action here. So this hair powder will even work on the side of the unit where it is just lace. Just look how it feels in those spots. It just is really, really magnificent. I'm so happy with it. And this particular brand, I actually got it on Amazon because I was needing it in a hurry. Strangely, I managed to get same day delivery on it. I bought 2 colors, one for this unit and one that I will use myself. So far it's great, and it comes in many, many different colors. This one happens to be black, but always when you're purchasing hair powder, just make sure that you're buying probably a color that's a little bit darker than your root color. That'll help you to get the most effective coverage. Okay, so here I have not refined the cuts completely on these yet, so cut still might need a little bit of a touch up, but you can see how much fuller these pieces are. Really looking full all over. That is one piece. And that hair powder, it really has good staying power. I know because I dropped a tiny bit on my couch. But it will wash out over time, of course. So this client may end up touching up those spots as she goes, but still really, 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 really good. They look really, really fantastic, and I think she'll get some great wear out of these. Okay, so this is the second unit. This one looks like it's got a little bit of a heavier bang on it, probably because of the way we did the repair. And by the way, I call these Franken-Units just because of the way that I'm cutting pieces from others and sewing them onto this and kind of like piecing them together. It's a term I coined myself, but it really, really is effective. And I'll tell you, the way that I discovered it was doing it on my own units. So once again, this is something you can do yourself if you're just a little bit creative, not too scared to try it, and maybe have a little bit of sewing experience. Again, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can always just sew with a needle and thread. See if you can make it happen. And again, don't be too afraid to make a mistake with units like these, because if you're not wearing them anyway, it's not a bad idea just to give it a shot, give it a try, see what you can do with it. Or you can reach out to me anytime. My information is here at the end of the video.